what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive, because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God.
We're going to begin a series called W.A.R. There may not be a single illustration of battles and wars in this series, just to let you know. It's a lot of work to dig back into history books and watch History Channel and to dig up, those famous battles and to try to apply them. It's just simply an acronym, and James used the word war, so it fits perfectly. Today, week 1, war, the war within you. I call it the war to worship. I'll explain this here in a minute. Week 2 is the affections of God. James says he yearns for the spirit that he made to live in you. He yearns for it. The affections of God. This protects you in this life, knowing how God sees you. In the third week, readying yourself. And it's all about what you think about each other. This week, the war that is active in you. It's interesting life. I got my one and only tattoo. 2 nails. Missed that one. 2 nails and some thorns, but 3 blood drops. All symbolic. I got it while I was in Bible school. That's what you do. You get symbolic tattoos. It says tetelestai. It's a Greek word. It means it is finished. It's a very cool tattoo. The day after I got it, I was like, what did I just do? At least I didn't get a gopher eating an apple. That could have been a lot worse. Or a hummingbird holding a rose. There's worse tattoos. But it's that moment of regret. And I said, well, I'm going to live with it. It's just the way it is. One side of me says, you need a tattoo. That's what Jesus would do. And the other side of me said, that's what the Jesus in seminary would do too, right? The other side of me says, man, you're going to wake up the next morning and say, man, that looks permanent. I won the car dealership game again. I get these things in the mail. God really likes me. I tell you something. I don't know if he likes you as much as he likes me, but I've come to realize the scratch-off games that come in the mail from Mitsubishi, I'm always a winner. 2 times ago, I won $5,000 cash. Did not have the time to go in, and I missed that window of opportunity. I scratch off the numbers, and next to the $5,000 cash was the numbers I scratched off with some little star or something. I don't know what that means. And I was a winner. I called in. I said, man, I'm going to come in and get my prize and all that, and I missed the appointment. But I won $100 yesterday. Same thing, same deal. I got a feeling, though, if I go in, I'm not leaving with cash. I'm leaving with a Mitsubishi. I'm just not a Mitsubishi guy. But there's that part of me that wants to go in and get my reward, and that other part of me says, man, you're being duped. There's that tension inside. James says we have passions at war within us. We're going to get into this. Here's the question you need to pursue. Is he talking about the same battle that Paul talks about in Romans 6, Romans 7? That Paul doesn't want to do things and he ends up doing them, and he does things he doesn't want to do. Is this what James is talking about, the 2 natures at war? Or is he talking about passions that are solely alive in the flesh? To be honest, it's hard to know. I lean towards the fact that he is talking along the lines of what Paul has said. We have passions. We are at war within ourselves. And this war results in James chapter 3, the tongue being full of deadly poison, being a destructive force, destroying lives. that this passion, this war that goes on is not a good war. I want to talk about worship, and then I want to define 4 words that I want you to write down as I define them. And then we will get into Scripture. We will encounter those words today, and I need you to have the definitions on hand when we encounter them. What is worship? In your mind, what is worship? We have that one verse in Romans 12 that Paul says, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable act of worship. I propose to you that worship is a state of being. You are born to worship, and you worship every minute of every day. Worship is not a switch that you turn on and turn off at your own desire and at your own will whenever you want to worship and not worship. But I propose that worship is your passion in life. Worship is the channel of communication between you and what you believe is God at the other end. Worship. Your flesh and your spirit are at a war to worship what both believe to be God. And I've lost you because of a 6-month-old. Hey, Connor. It's all right. He's worshiping. What is worship? If you got this concept of worship as being, as being something you enter into and exit out of, I believe you've got a flawed concept of worship. Worship is, in my mind, a channel of communication between you and what you think is God at the other end. Everywhere you go, you are in worship. My goal is to open up that channel between you and God, which faith and trust fills in the gap. I want to give you 4 definitions right now. And then we will read Scripture. We'll encounter these words, but I want you to be ready to interpret as we go through. This first word is a word that is used to define the essence of life. Life in its... Real quick, the Samaritan woman at the well. You know the story of the Samaritan woman? What happened? Jesus walks up to her and calls her out. Basically just, hey, you're sleeping with 5 guys. And she goes, how did you know? Right? He said, well, the guy you're sleeping with right now is not even your husband. And she's caught off guard. And Jesus says what to her? You're thirsty. You're searching for something. And you believe you're finding it in these men, but she knows she's not. He says, look, you're thirsty. You need to come to me, and I will fill you up. I'll give you water. I'll satisfy this thirst with unending water. And what does she say right after that? This awkward question of what is worship? Where will we worship? See, Jesus tapped into something in her that she was doing naturally. She was searching for the results of knowing God. Men will love me. Men will bring me security. Men will provide protection, validation, and hopefully I will have peace and joy and love and gentleness all in the end. Jesus says, you're way off. She goes, where will we worship one day? Well, in spirit and in truth. Your channel is broken. You're guiding your worship to the wrong thing. We have this word passion. And at its core, and these aren't the English definitions. These definitions are coming from the core of the Greek, the core of the Greek definition. Okay, so I'm not looking in Noah Webster's dictionary. I've gone and see how Scripture uses it, and I found the definition. Passion at its core is a desire for pleasure. Desire for pleasure. Well, those words evolve, and original meaning is pleasure. It's pleasure, that high you feel because you're on a roller coaster. It's pleasure, that moment that you have that is, sipping a beer on the front porch and just, pleasure at its core is it's the satisfaction of life. It's what you yearn for. It's that state of being in which you are 100% content. This is life. This is what I was designed for. Passions is a desire, pleasure. You were born with passion. You're born with this passion to seek out life. The question is, what fills in the blank of pleasure? For the Samaritan woman, it was a bunch of men who just could not, in the end, satisfy her desire for pleasure. And we're not talking sexual pleasure. We're talking about the pleasure that is found when you find life itself. This is what I was created for. This is my design. This is my story. And I am fulfilling it. Passions, a desire for pleasure. It's wired into you. You can't turn it off. In fact, passion could be the fuel to worship. Passion could be the thing that moves your worship in a certain direction. What you believe will bring you pleasure will ultimately be a thing or the thing you worship. We got passion. This next one is interesting. It's the word covet. I know. I'll tell you something. Look at the definition. Having more, receiving more, wanting more. Forget the wanting more. Let's start with having more and receiving more. That's what God does every single day of your life. You have more. In fact, if you had just enough, you would die the next second. Right? If you had just enough breath, you would die the next breath. There would be no more. You have more than enough. This is the reason you're here this morning. Step back, reset my buffer zone. I felt the edge creeping up. You have more, and you're receiving more. You're receiving more. This is somebody is providing you with something. We say God is providing your every need. You have more and you're receiving more. Even here, as you sit and breathe, you are receiving more oxygen to stay alive. And that's the problem. You want more. You want more. That is the problem with coveting. You're no longer content. You want more because you believe you need more, but you don't. God will give you everything He knows you need to get to the next moment in life. Coveting really messes with a mind. Reminds me of a story I heard this week. Two friends, they met in the street, and one friend just was rather depressed. The other friend comes up to him and says, "Man, why are you so glum? What's wrong? Why the sad face?" He says, "Look, man, 3 weeks ago, my uncle kicked a can and left me $50,000. And the friend says, "Man, that sounds, I'm sorry for the loss, but it sounds pretty good." He goes, "Well, the story just begins. 2 weeks ago, I lost a second cousin. Didn't even know his name. Left me $125,000 tax-free. Last week, my grandfather died. He left me $1 million. Guy goes, "Well, I'm sorry for the losses, but that sounds like you're doing pretty well then financially." He goes, "This week, nothing." Coveting, this is what happens. You have more. You receive more. And you want more. It's a beast that has to be starved. It is a beast that has to be starved. But the problem is coveting feeds off of itself. You want more and you obtain more and then you receive more and you get caught in this cycle. That has to end. Passions, a desire for pleasure. Covet, having more, receiving more, wanting more. The third word reminds me of a coin I got from my grandfather. It was called a bar nickel. I believe it had the stamp of 1896 on it. And at 5 years old, 6 years old, I thought this coin was very valuable. And it was in a white envelope, and on it, it had the date on it, and it had this word replica. I didn't know what the word replica meant, but I showed all my friends my valuable coin, my most valuable coin in my set. And my mom one day pulled me aside and says, I heard you've been telling everybody that this coin is like 110 years old. Do you know what the word replica means? I said, no, and I don't care. She goes, well, it means it's a fake. I said, Mom, no, you're a fake. I got a valuable coin and you're just jealous. This word idolatry means at its core, picture or copy. This is what coveting does. And if you look at the structure of the Ten Commandments, it starts with have no other gods before me, and it ends with do not covet your neighbor's stuff. Because in the end, those things are a picture or a copy of the real deal. God doesn't want you to carve out an image. He doesn't want you to go, well, see, but we get that. Why not covet your neighbor's stuff? Why not think to yourself, they've got a nice car. That would be nice in my driveway. I'll go finance one. It's not about the car. It's about what the car does to you. It tells you, I think I'll have joy. I think I'll have peace. I think I'll be more patient with people. This is the life I need because of that car. You see, it's a fake. It's a picture. It's a copy of what God really provides you. It becomes an idol. Now, we use this word idol, and we throw it around to these little images and statues on the ground. But this idea of idolatry is so much more. It's a picture or copy. But here's the ironic part. You are made in the image of God. You are made in His likeness. And if you want to taste and see what God is like, take a look in the mirror. See beyond the wrinkles, see beyond the moles, see beyond the tattoo. Look deep into the eyes and see the imprint of a creator. That's not found in the stuff of this world. One more word. So we have passion, a desire for pleasure. We have covet, having more, receiving more, wanting more. We have idolatry. It's a picture or a copy. It's not the real thing. It's a fake in the end. And then we have the word adultery, which initially triggers in your mind cheating on a spouse, cheating in a relationship. And yeah, in a way it is. But at its core, it means unfaithful. You're being unfaithful. Faithless. These are the 4 words I want you to know as we now read James. James chapter 4, verse 1. What causes quarrels? What causes fights among you? Man, we're too civilized, right? Have you already kind of removed yourself from this verse? You don't really quarrel and fight. But if you have bitterness towards someone or hatred, you've simply learned how to shut down the tongue. But the poison of the flesh is still bubbling within. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this? Your passions are at war within you. Your desire for pleasure is at war within you. Your desire for the essence of life, your desire for God. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Your desire for the utmost satisfaction is at war within you. You desire, but you don't have, so you murder. You covet, and you cannot obtain. You have more, you receive more, but you want more, and you're not getting it. So you fight and quarrel. You do not have, because you do not ask. I mean, it reminds me of a story. I'm walking through Home Depot, and I'm hungry. I just got a hankering for a Snickers. Man, just need a Snickers. I don't know, maybe I watched a commercial or something about Snickers, why wait? And all the Snicker boxes are empty. All right, so they're all empty, but I've got my heart set on a Snickers. And I walk the store, the aisles, the checkout aisles. I'm at Home Depot looking for a Snickers. Bad place to start. Finally, I find one Snickers, the last Snickers in Home Depot, and I grab that thing, and I kind of hold it like a champion. I found it. I got it. I'm so excited. Turn around, trip on my feet, fall flat on my face. And I'm laying there and I'm groaning, but I'm holding the Snickers up in the air like a champion, like a victor. This old man, I see him coming towards me, and he straps on his oxygen pack onto his back. He tightens it down, and he kind of limps over. I said, man, he looks at me and goes, son, he goes, are you okay? And I'm holding this thing up in the air, my prize, and I said, no, not really. That fall really hurts. And he goes, good. I'll take that. Good luck catching me. Coveting causes us to do a lot of weird things. All right? We don't ask, but we try to obtain. Verse 3, you ask and do not receive, because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. This is not about prayer. All right? How many times, though, have you heard that God doesn't answer your prayers because you ask to spend on your passions? It's an abuse of this passage. It's not about prayer. There's some principles there that may apply, but James is clearly talking about relationships between you and someone else on this earth. He is not talking about prayer and talking to God. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend on your passions. Think about the absurdity of this. You see somebody else's wife. Man, she looks good. I'll go ask for her because she should become my wife. You're not going to receive that. Okay, that's really absurd. What about the house? Really like that neighbor's house? I'll go ask and maybe he'll give it to me. It's not going to work. What about the car? What about the lawnmower? What about the Snickers? Think about it. We all are pursuing pleasure, right? The satisfaction of life. You go and you work very hard. And the Lord has given you life. He has given you what you need in life. He has given you pleasure. He is pleasure. You have obtained it from Him. And here comes someone waltzing into your life asking for your pleasure, what has been given to you. Will you give it to him? No. And I wouldn't blame. I wouldn't. I've got this thing about people who walk up and ask for money. That clearly can work. There's not. It triggers some guilt, but there's not this response I feel like I have to give to them. They can go work and go work hard and receive their own pleasure. Why would I give them what I have worked hard for? Now look, flip this around. James has already talked about this because people have needs. And you have a radar that is constantly on, that is able to perceive needs and able to see in the lives of others where they need help. And your pleasure is to love. But this culture is an entitlement culture, and it has been used to say, no, I deserve your stuff. And we breed coveting, and we breed quarrels, and we breed fights. The answer is Proverbs 23. Laziness Laziness breeds coveting. It breeds want. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hand, and poverty comes on you like a thief, and want comes on like an armed robber. You ask and do not receive. You ask each other because you want to spend it on your pleasure, on your passion, on your desire. You are channeling worship to your neighbor. You are looking for what God gives you through someone else. Peace, joy, all the fruits of the Spirit. You are trying to obtain by fulfilling your pleasure, by attempting to gain what your neighbor has. This is the problem. You adulterous people. You unfaithful people. You see what James points out is you've cut off the channel of communication. The channel of worship is broken. You do not have faith in God. You have faith in the people of the world and the stuff that they have. You're chasing fakes, replicas, copies of the real thing. When you see that shiny car and you think to yourself, I really should have that or one like it, and that will bring me happiness. It's a fake. That's the moment you could say, man, it's triggering something in me. I'm hungry for something that only God can provide. Yeah, okay. Fill in the blank. Take the word car out of it and fill in the blank. Anything your neighbor has that you want. You adulterous people. The words are heavy. He doesn't mix words. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. God doesn't make himself an enemy of you. The Samaritan woman, Jesus wasn't an enemy of her. She was an enemy to God. And it was in this moment, Romans 5 declares, is when Christ died for you. When you turned your back, that the love of God pours in on you. When I pursue things of this world, I have shut down my faith. That is my trust. I'm not talking about saving faith that is in us, that God has given us, that can never be shattered and broken. That is always there. But I have shut down my trust in God, and I've pursued trust elsewhere. I've made myself an enemy of God. Exodus chapter 20. Real quick, let's touch on the 10 Commandments. Starts off, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a copy or an image, a carved image, anything in a like or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. You see, Exodus, Moses is showing you want to worship. You are constantly looking for the attributes of God and the consequences or ramifications of knowing God. You are hungry and searching for something that only God can provide. But until you come to know God, you're going to start whittling and carving out images of God everywhere you go. He says, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers. He's jealous for you. He yearns for the spirit he created to be in you. He visits the iniquity of the fathers on the children of the third and fourth generation of those who hate him. It's not saying he hates them, but those who have made themselves an enemy. And then verse 17, you shall not covet. You have more, you receive more. I know this is the Old Testament, the Septuagint and all that, but the definition fits. You shall not covet. You have more, you receive more. Don't want more. Do not want your neighbor's house. Don't covet your neighbor's wife, the male servant, female servant, his Chevy, his Ford, or anything else that is your neighbor's. I mean, do not covet your neighbor's stuff. What's the answer? I got 2 verses here that point us to the answer. Put to death what is earthly in you. Kill it all. It's not life. It'll end one day. You won't. The pursuit of pleasure in this life, it will come to an end. We all have the same end. God will shut it down. Paul says, let's just get ahead of the game. Just shut it down now. Put to death what is earthly in you. Sexual immorality does not bring you what God brings you. Impurity does not bring you what God brings you. It does not grant you the pleasure that is fully satisfying. Passion, evil desire, and covetousness. That wanting more, that is idolatry. Everywhere you look, looking for God, maybe He's there, and believing you found Him because you found peace in something of this world, or you found joy. They're all fakes. They're all copies. They're all replicas. The answer is Hebrews 13:5. Keep your life free from the love of money. Be content with what you have, for He has said, I will never leave you or forsake you. The Psalm says, in your right hand are pleasures forever. The pleasure of life is God Himself, and He is so close to you. Be content with what you have. He made you different. He made you special. He made you unique. And He's given you everything you need to live the life that He made you to live. You go and start desiring what everybody else has, you lose your uniqueness. And you actually say, that person is created greater than me. I want their pleasure. Reminds me of a story of a farmer who woke up one morning and he's just aggravated with his farm. The lake always needed thinning of fish. The rolling hills made it very hard for him to maintain his fence line. He could never see the herd of cattle, because of these hills. At night, it was just dark, trying to get from the barn to the house, no electricity, just really dark. And so he decided, I'm going to list it one day. And so he called a realtor and he listed it for sale. A couple days later, he begins his search for the right farm, the perfect farm, the farm of his dreams, the farm that he will die on. And he's going through ads and ads and ads, and he comes across this ad that says, for sale. A farm on many acres with a pristine lake full of bass. Has gentle rolling hills. It comes with a whole herd of black Angus cows. Has a classic red barn that has beautiful wildflowers all around it. Guy reads it and says, man, sounds like the perfect place. He reads it again. Says, this is it. This is the farm. This is the farm I need, I want. And he calls the realtor up and realizes it was his realtor. He says, well, I want to go look at this farm. The realtor says, that's your farm. He says, well, in that case, remove the listing. God created your life specifically for you. The grass isn't greener on the other side. The moment you get to the other side, you realize how green that grass was that you were standing on. This is your story. And we fill in the blank with praising the Savior all day long. But you have to put to death what is earthly in you. You have to know that the things of this world, all of it, is a fake. It's a copy and it's a picture of the real deal, real life. The pleasures of God and knowing Him. You are created specially, uniquely. There's only one of you. And God had this purpose in mind when He created you. And the moment you begin to cast your eyes on the life of your neighbor and envy that, it's the moment you lose sight of your story. And your story is laced with the glory of God. He has given you everything you need to accomplish His purpose and His desire and His will in your life. He will sustain you to the very last breath. An exercise that it's an exercise for me at times. It's something that I have tried to do and I attempt to do all the time, and I encourage you to do it, is everything in your life. Everything. Just look at it and say, God did it. God gave it to me. This meal came from God. This car came from God. He provided me the gas to get to work. He did it all. And even if it's an exercise, what it does is at least keeps that channel of worship pointed in the right direction. It's coming from God. It's coming from God. Your passions, they're at war. They are what causes fights and quarrels amongst each other. But you're just searching for life. And ultimately, you're searching for God, a place for your worship to live. It's right there with you right now. He's given you everything. Everything He wants you to have. And in return, all He's looking for is the acknowledgement. It came from me. And you'll have a beautiful story to tell at the end. Your farm is incredible. Where God has placed you in life, amazing. Only He can do it. Let's pray. Father,